All right, next we are going to hear from Shera Eichler. I would say she's the former chief of staff, but as you're about to learn, Shera has done any number of jobs for Team Bonnen. She's a very familiar face to everyone here in Brazoria County and to those of us in the hallways of the Capitol, where she is known for her passionate dedication and her loyalty as serving as a truly trusted advisor and lead staffer to Dennis for nearly 18 years. She wore many hats working for him. This included not only chief of staff, but legislative director, scheduler, speechwriter, campaign manager, fundraiser, dog sitter, office decorator, password bearer, I need a password bearer, collector of speeding tickets, if they weren't archived in the back of the car or truck, therapist, and the list goes on. Upon his retirement from the legislature, Shera launched her career in government relations and communications and consulting. She lives in Austin with her husband, David, and their two daughters, Emerson and Hayden, who warned their friends that, quote, "Mom can't talk to her boss on speakerphone in the car because he says too many bad words." So Shera, please, on behalf of Team Bonnen, come and join us. It's kind of the James Bond of Team Bonnen. She can do it all.
Good afternoon. My buddy Steve here is for moral support. He's been on the Bonnen team for a long time as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Shera Eichler, and I survived to tell the story of working for Dennis Bonnen for 18 years. Dennis, Kim, Gregory, and Jackson, this day makes my heart very, very happy. But writing the speech was no easy task. I'm accustomed to writing the speeches for Dennis, where he would then pick them apart and tell me everything that was wrong, and not giving speeches about Dennis. So as I set out to put all my thoughts and random memories down on paper, two things happened. My normally organized brain was filled with 20 years of disorganization, and I kept getting calls from Dennis every 45 minutes that kept me from getting it done, 13 to be exact that day. And that's when it dawned on me, this is poetic. This chaotic speechwriting process that continues to be interrupted by outbursts of Dennis's energy is the perfect analogy of life working with him. But I've not journeyed through this incredibly rewarding, anxiety-provoking joyride alone. I'd like every former staffer here to stand up and be recognized. This amazing group made it a priority to be here today for the person we love, Dennis Bonnen. And as I pointed out, this doesn't even include all the ones he made me fire. So when admirers of Dennis highlight all the wonderful achievements of his life of service, they rightfully focus on the fervor with which he fought for this community and the love and passion that was reflected in his work on behalf of the Texas legislature and his colleagues. But the reason I stand here today, surrounded by Team Bonnen, is to also shine light on the tremendous impact Dennis has had on our lives. And I have just a few thoughts from him. I had so many sent to me the past few days, and we would be here all day. I will make sure to share those with him. But Linda Winder, who hit Dennis when she was his journalism teacher in high school and went on to serve as his district director, experienced firsthand how high he set the bar when it came to being responsive and respectful to every constituent, no matter their political affiliation. No call went unanswered, no casework went unaddressed, no email or letter went without a personal letter of response from Dennis. Nancy, who now does a wonderful job for Representative Vasut as his district director, has been honored to work for a man who is compassionate and has integrity, but she also pointed out no matter how many times she was warned that you make the trip from Austin to Brazoria County in 2 hours, she always thought you were a very good driver. But she's wrong. Carson couldn't be more correct when he points out Dennis truly thinks outside the box, and that is something I have said countless times. Approaching an issue from a unique perspective, taking into account different angles all at once, fresh, practical solutions that considered but weren't beholden to party lines. Dennis's thought process is like five-dimensional chess. Kimberly said she learned colorful ways to describe something, how many ways someone can be wrong, and just how much work it is to keep up with Dennis. You also taught her that if you expect the impossible from someone, they'll eventually realize they can pull off the impossible. Steve Bruno brings the perspective of being your classmate at St. Ed's before later working in our office. And one of his favorite stories is of the second day of the American National Government class, which is where he met you. And on day 2 of the class, a short quiz of 3 questions was issued, answers quickly turned in, and as Dr. Wise turned around to start the day's discussion, a hand shot up from the back of the classroom. Dennis Bonnen challenging one of the questions on the quiz. Steve got to witness a young Dennis who was clearly bound for success, a man who was always there for his friends, someone who worked harder than anyone else in the race, a strategist who could dive into an issue, dissect and understand all sides, and work towards a solution in a way we've never witnessed in another person in the Capitol. And now it's my turn. Dennis, you are my best friend and absolutely the most strategic mind that has ever walked the halls of the Capitol. And you were also the most misunderstood. And that's okay, because we know exactly who you are. While others interpreted that 100-mile-an-hour walking pace, head down, no time for pleasantries, as you being a jerk, those of you who really understand you know that you are already focused on your next mission, fixing the next problem, solving another member's dilemma, finding the answer to the most complex of challenges, fuming over someone who lied. There was never tolerance for dishonesty. Literally reforming school finance, or planning the next move of your chess piece. You work the chamber, the hearing rooms, and every hallway with a focus and intensity that will never be matched. It's what garnered so much admiration, but also the jealousy of those in the game for all the wrong reasons. You are one of the most committed fathers and husbands I've witnessed, and it has been incredible watching you prioritize your family over the years, and yet somehow still give your every ounce to serving others. And we also know that Kim is destined for sainthood. And your love for the institution of the Texas House, still to this day. Thank you for passing that love and appreciation along to me and helping me understand what it means to work together to make a real difference. And boy, did you ever make a difference. You're the man whose community college got its budget zeroed out one session and rained holy hell down upon the Capitol to fix it. You are the public servant who reminded your staff every single day that we didn't work for you. We worked for the taxpayers who paid our salaries, and we were always expected to give them 110%. We signed up to serve District 25, and it showed in everything we did in your office. You have a heart that knows no bounds. Like the time a random young man waltzed into our office with his suitcase and requested your keys. We didn't know whether to call security or call Dennis. Come to find out, Abdul, a house sergeant at the time, was having to vacate his dorm at the end of the semester and miss the most exciting part of session. So guess who took him in? Abdul and his new wife joined us today, and we're so glad Dennis's roommate could be here. You picked up so many of us when we were at our lowest, never giving up on us and always standing beside us through personal trials and heartache. And you and Kim enabled me to balance a career and raise a family. And it was always family first, always. And it's been beautiful watching both of our families grow together. But let's be real. The number of times I imagine physically strangling you with my bare hands is countless. I wish Patricia Harless were here today, because I will always recount the story of her approaching me in the back of a hearing room one day on a committee she shared with you. And she asked me how in the world I could possibly stand working for such an asshole. And now she and her husband love and adore you and are the best of friends. I learned so many life lessons that I still carry with me today. I learned how to reconcile being a very visual person with working for a man with dyslexia who is a very verbal person. Very, very verbal. Verbal for hours and hours. I learned to know your mood and when to brace myself for Dennis' impact by the sound of the door handle when he walked into our office every morning. We all learned how to contain ourselves from crawling under the table during meetings when you were setting someone straight in your most eloquent of ways, and yes, of course they always deserved it. I learned in the final hours of my very first bill filing deadline that a template exists to write your own bill without legislative counsel attorneys. Thank you, Kim and Steve. And why did I learn this? Because a lobbyist said something idiotic and dishonest in the Capitol Girls, so Dennis proceeded to breeze back in the office with a plan to make their session miserable while simultaneously making Texas better. A win-win. And the bill we drafted and filed ended up receiving national and worldwide attention for its innovation and genius. And the Macedonian Resolution, 2003, filed at the request of Mrs. Bonnen, Dennis's mom. I learned that when Mrs. Bonnen called the office, I was not only serving Texas, I was also about to serve the entire Greek community. We sparked the ire of half the European continent that session. Thank goodness for Panos Karageorgis, our dear intern, who was given the task of fielding the hate calls and letters. He couldn't be here today, but I think his mom and dad, are they here? Oh, so glad y'all could be here. I learned to always have our bill hearing requests drafted and ready to submit because no matter how many times I would argue with you that I couldn't request a hearing until the bill was actually referred to a committee, I still wasn't doing it fast enough, and we broke bill passage records. But the reason we're here today is to say thank you. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for believing in all of us, for teaching us a love of the process and a love of the people, for showing us that bipartisanship and robust, respectful dialogue wins, for reminding us always that it's about the individuals, not the labels, for pushing us beyond every limit and then pushing us some more, for demonstrating the immense value of honesty, loyalty, and the truest of friendships. And speaking personally, the Capitol's not an easy place for a woman to be successful, but you never stop watching out for me. You never stop believing in me. You never stop scolding me when I sell myself short, and you never stop reminding me I have a voice and I must use it. So today I'm going to use it to close with my favorite Teddy Roosevelt quote, because every time I see it, I feel it was written for you. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. So if you'll please come up and join us, we have a little something for you to show our appreciation, one of our favorite memories, and in case you ever have any doubts of how much we love you and care about you, we have a little quote to remind you. Steve, you were supposed to have this in the wrap. We don't mean to be shitty, but here's where you're wrong.
Fair enough.